I'm 81 years old, been Black in America every single one of those days, and I need to tell you something that nobody wants to admit. Racism didn't destroy me, but it absolutely changed who I was supposed to be. Changed me so deep, I didn't even recognize what was mine and what was survival until I was damn near dead. My name is Dorothy Mae Richardson. I was born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1944, came up during Jim Crow, lived through integration, watched the whole civil rights movement from the streets and the television screen. And here's what I'm finally understanding at 81 years old. I spent 70 years thinking I was just being smart, being careful, being successful. Turns out I was just being somebody else. 3 months ago, my granddaughter Imani came to visit me. She's 26, natural hair out to here, says whatever she thinks, wears African prints to her corporate job. She was looking through my old photo albums, and she stopped at this picture of me from 1965. I was 21, my hair was natural, I had on this beautiful head wrap my mama made me, and I was laughing with my mouth wide open at something my cousin said. Imani looked at that picture for a long time. Then she looked at me, then back at the picture. Grandma, she said, who is this? And chilly, I couldn't answer her, because I didn't know that woman anymore. Let me take you back. Let me show you how it happens. How you don't even notice yourself disappearing. I was born in Birmingham. My daddy worked at the steel mill. My mama cleaned houses for white families. We lived in a neighborhood where everybody knew everybody, where the church bells rang every Sunday morning, where the smell of somebody's collard greens would drift through the whole block. I was the oldest of 5. Smart as a whip, my teachers said. Could have done anything. But this was Birmingham in the 50s. This was before the marches, before the bombings, before everything changed and nothing changed at all. I remember when I was 7 years old, my mama took me downtown to buy shoes. We had saved up and I needed new ones for school. We went into the white shoe store because they had better quality. The man looked at my mama like she had dragged in something dirty. We don't try on shoes here, he said. You buy 'em and take 'em home. My mama nodded. Didn't say a word. Bought the shoes that might not even fit because we weren't allowed to try them on. We weren't allowed to be sure. On the way home, I asked her why. Why couldn't I try on the shoes? Why did he look at us like that? She stopped walking, looked down at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Something like fear and fury all mixed together. Baby, she said, you're smart. You're going to do better than me. But you got to learn how to move in this world. You got to learn when to speak and when to be quiet, when to show yourself and when to hide. You understand. I was 7. I didn't understand, but I learned. Lord, how I learned. By the time I was in high school, I had it down to a science. 2 voices, 2 walks, 2 versions of Dorothy. The one at home and in the neighborhood, where I could laugh loud and talk back and wear my hair however I wanted. And the one for white spaces, where I made myself smaller, quieter, safer. I got into a previously all-white high school in 1959. Integration was supposed to be this great thing, and maybe it was, but nobody told me the cost. I was one of 5 Black students in a school of 800. Every day was a performance. Every day I had to prove I belonged there, that I was smart enough, clean enough, good enough. I straightened my hair. I changed how I talked. I studied twice as hard as the white kids just to be seen as half as good. My English teacher, Miss Patterson, she pulled me aside one day, told me I had real potential. Then she said, but Dorothy, if you want to succeed, you need to leave certain things behind. The way you talk with your friends at lunch, that's not how successful people speak. Do you understand? I understood. I was 16 years old, and I understood that my voice, my real voice, wasn't good enough. So I changed it. I got into college. Tuskegee Institute, 1962. You'd think I could breathe there, right? All Black school, Black professors, Black students. But even there, we were being taught how to be acceptable, how to integrate into their world, how to prove we deserved our seats at their tables. Dress conservatively. Speak proper English. Don't give them any reason to say we're not as good. I graduated in 1966. Got a job as a teacher in Atlanta. By then, I had perfected the art of code switching before I even knew that's what it was called. I had one voice for my students, especially the white parents who would sometimes visit. I had another voice for the black parents who reminded me of my own mama. I had a weekend voice and a work voice and a church voice and a voice for when white people were around. I had so many voices, I forgot which one was mine. I met my husband, Robert, in 1967. He was a postal worker, steady and reliable. We got married in 1968, right after King died. The whole community was grieving, was angry, was fired up. There were protests, there was organizing, there was this feeling that everything was about to change. Robert wanted to join the protests, wanted to march, wanted to be part of it. I talked him out of it. We have good jobs, I said. We're building something. We can't risk it. That's what I told him. But what I really meant was, I'm scared. I'm scared of losing what little safety we've built. I'm scared of standing out. I'm scared of being seen. Racism taught me to be afraid of being visible. We had 3 children. Michael in 1969, Patricia in 1971, Terrence in 1974. And I raised them the way I was raised. I taught them how to survive. I taught Michael how to talk to police. Taught him to keep his hands visible, to say yes, sir, and no, sir, to never, ever give them a reason. He was 6 years old when I gave him the talk. 6 years old, and I was already teaching him to be afraid. I taught Patricia to straighten her hair, told her it looked more professional that way. She was 12, and she wanted to wear her hair natural like Angela Davis. I said no. Too radical. Too much attention. I taught Terrence to be twice as good, to work twice as hard, to never let them see him angry, even when he had every right to be angry. I taught them survival. I thought I was teaching them strength. I was teaching them to hide. The 80s came. The 90s. I became principal of my school in 1985. First black woman principal they'd ever had. I was so proud of how far I'd come, how much I'd achieved. I wore suits every day, conservative, professional. My hair was always straightened, always perfect. I spoke in my most careful English. I made myself as non-threatening as possible. When the white PTA parents complained that we were teaching too much Black history, I compromised. When they said the African dance class was inappropriate, I canceled it. When they said the step team was too loud, I asked the kids to quiet down. I thought I was being smart, strategic. I thought I was protecting my position so I could help more kids. I was just protecting my safety. And every time I did it, I lost a little more of myself. In 2002, Patricia came to visit. She was 31, had just cut all her relaxed hair off and gone natural. She had locks now, beautiful and long and free. I didn't say anything, but my face must have shown what I was thinking. You don't like it, she said. It's not about liking it, baby. It's just, are you sure? What about your job? What will people think? She looked at me for a long time. Then she said, Mama, whose people are you worried about? I didn't have an answer. You spent your whole life worried about what white people think, she said. You taught us to do the same thing. And I'm tired, Mama. I'm tired of being somebody else. I was angry. Told her she didn't understand. Told her I was just trying to protect her the way my mama protected me. Protected me from what? She asked. From being myself? She left. We didn't talk for 3 months. The years kept coming. I retired in 2008. Thought I could finally relax. Finally just be me. But I didn't know who me was anymore. I kept straightening my hair, even though nobody was watching. Kept code switching, even when I was alone in my house. Kept making myself smaller, even when there was nobody there to take up space from. 70 years of survival habits don't just disappear. Robert died in 2015. 60 years old, heart attack, gone before the ambulance came. At his funeral, his brother Marcus spoke. Marcus had been in the Black Panthers back in the day. Marcus had marched and protested and risked everything. Marcus had lived out loud. He talked about Robert, about how good he was, how steady. Then he said something that broke me. Robert was a good man, Marcus said. But I always wondered what kind of man he could have been if he hadn't spent his whole life trying to prove he deserved to breathe. I sat in that church pew, in my conservative black dress, with my perfectly straightened hair, and I understood. Racism hadn't broken me. It had done something worse. It had convinced me to break myself. That was 7 years ago. I was 74 years old, and I was just beginning to understand what I'd lost. The changes came slow. Too slow. Every one of them felt dangerous. I stopped straightening my hair first. Let it grow out natural. At 74 years old, I saw my real hair texture for the first time in 50 years. It was gray and kinky and beautiful, and I cried when I looked in the mirror. My church ladies talked. Dorothy, what happened to your hair? Like something had gone wrong. Like natural black hair was a problem to be fixed. I told them, this is my hair. This is what God gave me. Started small, but it was mine. I started speaking differently. Not all at once, but gradually I let my real voice come back. The one that said ain't sometimes. The one that had rhythm and music in it. The one that sounded like my mama and my grandmama and all the women who came before me. I joined a poetry group for Black elders. We met at the community center every Thursday. Some of them were younger than me, in their 60s, just retiring. Some were in their 80s, had lived through even more than I had. We wrote about our lives. Our real lives. Not the sanitized versions we'd been performing for white people. Not the acceptable stories. I wrote about Birmingham, about the shoe store, about watching my mama make herself small, about becoming a principal and losing myself in the process, about teaching my children to hide. When I read it out loud, my voice shook. But it was my voice. Mine. One of the women, Sister Jean, she was 85. She'd been a domestic worker for 40 years, cleaned houses for white families who never even learned her last name. She said to me, Dorothy, you know what I realized? They didn't just take our labor. They took our insides, made us forget we were whole. That's it exactly. That's what racism does when you survive it for 70, 80 years. It doesn't just attack you from outside. It gets inside, changes how you see yourself, changes what you think you deserve, changes what you think is yours. I started reconnecting with my children differently. Patricia and I had coffee every week. She brought her daughters, my grandchildren, Imani and Zara. They had natural hair, wore African prints, spoke their minds without apologizing. I watched them and I felt proud and sad. Proud because they had something I never had. Sad because I was the one who almost took it from them. Grandma, Imani asked me one day, why did you tell Mama to straighten her hair when she was young? I could have lied, could have made excuses, could have said it was just how things were back then. Instead, I told her the truth. Because I was scared, I said. I was scared that if she looked too black, if she was too visible, if she didn't fit their idea of acceptable, she'd suffer. And I couldn't stand the thought of her suffering. But she suffered anyway, Imani said, not mean, just honest. She suffered from having to hide who she was. I know that now, I said. I started going to therapy 2 years ago. At 79 years old, I finally admitted I needed help understanding who I was underneath all the survival. My therapist, a young black woman named Dr. Carter, she asked me, Dorothy, if you could meet the 7-year-old girl in Birmingham before she learned to hide, what would you tell her? I couldn't answer at first, because I didn't remember that girl. I had spent so long hiding her, protecting her, shrinking her down to nothing, I didn't know if she was still in there. But I started looking for her, started asking myself what I liked before I learned to only like safe things, what I wanted before I learned to only want acceptable things, who I was before I learned to be somebody else. It's hard work, undoing 70 years of survival. Some days I forget. Some days I catch myself code switching when I'm just talking to myself in the kitchen. Some days I still feel that old fear rising up when I speak too loud, laugh too hard, take up too much space. But I'm trying. At 81, I'm trying to find the woman I could have been. I wear what I want now. Bright colors, African prints, head wraps like my mama used to make. Things I would have called too much before. I say what I think. Not always. Not perfectly. But more than I used to. I let myself be visible. And yes, it still scares me. After 70 years of trying to be invisible, visibility feels dangerous. But here's what I'm learning. I'm not 7 years old in that shoe store anymore. I'm not 21 and trying to prove I deserve my seat at a white college. I'm not 35 and protecting a job by making myself smaller. I'm 81, and I have very little time left, and I'm done spending it being somebody else. Last month, I went back to Birmingham for the first time in 40 years. Went to the church where I was baptized. Went in the neighborhood where I grew up. It's changed. A lot of it's gone, but some of it's still there. I stood outside that shoe store. It's a coffee shop now. Different. But I stood there, and I thought about that 7-year-old girl who couldn't try on shoes because her feet weren't good enough to touch the store's property. And I cried, not because of what they did to me, but because of what I did to myself after. Because I took that shame they gave me, and I carried it for 70 years. I let it shape every choice I made, every word I spoke, every version of myself I showed the world. They taught me I wasn't good enough as I was, and I believed them. Now listen. Listen to what I'm telling you. If you're young and Black, you already know about racism. You know about microaggressions and discrimination and all the ways this world tries to tell you're less than. You know about code switching and respectability politics and trying to be twice as good just to be seen as equal. You know all that. But here's what I need you to understand. Surviving racism isn't the same as being free. You can survive every racist encounter. You can navigate every white space perfectly. You can code switch and assimilate and make yourself acceptable. You can achieve everything they said you couldn't achieve. And you can still lose yourself in the process. That's what nobody tells you. That's what I wish somebody had told me when I was 21 years old with my natural hair and my loud laugh and my whole self intact. You don't have to choose between survival and selfhood. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Grandma Dorothy, I have to pay bills. I have to keep my job. I have to navigate these white spaces safely. I can't just be myself, I'll lose everything. And I hear you, because I said the same thing for 70 years. But let me ask you something. What are you losing right now by hiding? What dreams are you not pursuing because they're too Black? What joy are you not experiencing because it's too loud? What version of yourself are you keeping locked away because she's too much? What are you sacrificing every single day to be acceptable? Here's the truth. They're never going to think you're acceptable enough. Never. Because the game is rigged. The standard is whiteness, and you will never be white, and you shouldn't want to be. So you can spend your whole life trying to meet a standard that was designed to exclude you, or you can decide right now that you're going to be yourself anyway. I'm not saying quit your job. I'm not saying ignore the realities of racism. I'm not saying survival doesn't matter. I'm saying survival isn't enough. I'm saying you deserve to exist as your whole self, not just the parts that make white people comfortable. I'm saying your voice, your real voice, with all its rhythm and music and cultural specificity, is not unprofessional. It's yours. I'm saying your real hair, in whatever form it takes, is not unprofessional. It's yours. I'm saying your joy, your anger, your pain, your fullness, none of it is too much. It's yours. Start small if you have to. I did. I started with my hair at 74 years old. Maybe you start with speaking up in one meeting. Maybe you start with wearing one piece of clothing that makes you feel like yourself. Maybe you start with saying no when someone asks you to shrink. But start. Don't wait until you're 81 years old to find out who you are. Because here's what I know now. Racism will try to change you. It will try to convince you that your authentic self is a liability. It will try to make you believe that acceptance is more important than integrity. And for 70 years, I let it win. But racism didn't break me. It changed me. And the tragedy isn't what racism did. The tragedy is that I helped. I took the shame they gave me and I internalized it. I took the fear they taught me and I let it guide every decision. I took the message that I wasn't good enough as I was, and I spent my whole life trying to become someone else. Your ancestors, my ancestors, our people survived slavery, survived Jim Crow, survived lynching and redlining and mass incarceration and every attempt to destroy us. They survived so you could be free, not just free from chains or laws or segregation, free to be yourself, fully, loudly, unapologetically. Don't dishonor their survival by spending your freedom in hiding. I'm 81 years old. I don't know how much time I have left, but whatever time I have, I'm spending it as myself. The Dorothy I was before the world taught me to be afraid. The Dorothy who laughed loud and wore her hair natural and took up space without apologizing. She was there all along, underneath the survival, underneath the fear, underneath 70 years of trying to be acceptable. She was waiting for me to come back. And if you've been hiding too, if you've been performing respectability for so long you forgot you are underneath it, your real self is waiting for you too. You don't have to wait until you're 81 to find her. You don't have to lose 70 years to survival before you claim your freedom. You can start right now, today, this moment. Choose yourself. Choose your voice, your hair, your joy, your fullness. Choose to exist as you are, not as they want you to be. Racism will try to stop you. Will tell you it's too risky, too dangerous, too much. Do it anyway, because the biggest risk isn't being too visible. The biggest risk is disappearing into safety and never coming back. I'm Dorothy Mae Richardson. I'm 81 years old. I spent 70 years hiding and 7 years finding myself. And I'm telling you, from the bottom of my heart, from the depths of my regret and my hope, don't wait as long as I did. Be yourself. Now, while you still have time, the choice is yours. But make it soon. Our ancestors didn't survive everything they survived so you could spend your freedom being someone else. Share this if it resonates. Leave a comment about your own journey back to yourself. Subscribe for more truth from an old woman who learned her lessons too late but is still trying to pass them on. You hear me? Be free, baby. Be yourself. Be whole. That's all we ever needed to be.